Between roughly 1500 BC and 1200 AD, a civilization of seafarers settled every habitable island in the Pacific Ocean, an area of 10 million square miles. They did it without compasses, without maps, without metal, without writing. They crossed open ocean in double-hulled canoes, navigating by the stars, the waves, the behavior of birds, and the color of the clouds. And they found every island there was to find. No civilization in human history has covered more of the Earth's surface through navigation alone. The Polynesians did not stumble onto islands by accident. They found them on purpose, using a knowledge system so sophisticated that modern scientists are still trying to understand how it worked. The story begins in Taiwan, or more precisely, in the Austronesian expansion that started roughly 5,000 years ago. Linguistic and genetic evidence traces the Polynesian people back to Southeast Asia and Taiwan. They moved south through the Philippines, Indonesia, and Melanesia over thousands of years. By about 1500 BC, they had reached Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa, the cradle of Polynesian culture. They stayed there for roughly 1,000 years, developing the language, customs, and navigation skills that would allow them to colonize the rest of the Pacific. Then, around 700 to 800 AD, the Great Voyages began. Polynesian navigators, called wayfinders, pushed east into the vast empty Pacific. They found the Cook Islands, the Society Islands, the Marquesas, Rapa Nui, Easter Island, one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth, over 2,000 miles from the nearest populated land. They reached Hawaii, 2,400 miles from the nearest island group. And they reached Aotearoa, New Zealand, around 1250 to 1300 AD, making the Maori the last major Polynesian settlement. The distances are staggering. Hawaii to Tahiti is over 2,500 miles of open ocean. Easter Island to South America is over 2,000 miles. New Zealand to the nearest Polynesian islands is over 1,000 miles. These voyages were undertaken in canoes, large, sophisticated, ocean-going double-hulled vessels called waka hurua or vaka, but still canoes. No GPS. No compass. No sextant. Nothing but human knowledge and the ocean itself. So how did they navigate? The primary tool was the stars. Polynesian navigators memorized the rising and setting points of hundreds of stars across the horizon. As one star set, the next rose in a predictable pattern, creating a star compass with 32 or more directional points. By holding a course relative to specific stars, a navigator could maintain direction through the night. During the day, they used the sun's arc, adjusted for season and latitude. But stars alone cannot tell you where you are, only which direction you are going. For position, navigators read the ocean itself. They studied swell patterns, the deep, consistent waves generated by distant weather systems that maintain their direction across thousands of miles. A navigator lying in the hull of the canoe could feel multiple swells passing beneath and, from their interaction, determine direction even when the sky was overcast and the stars invisible. They watched birds. Certain species, like the golden plover and the long-tailed cuckoo, fly to specific islands at specific times of year. A navigator seeing these birds in flight knew land was in a particular direction and roughly how far. Frigate birds, which do not land on water, fly out from islands in the morning and return in the evening. Following them at dusk led to land. They read clouds. Islands heat up during the day and create updrafts that form distinctive cloud patterns visible from far away. A stationary cloud on the horizon, when all other clouds are moving, often indicates an island below. The underside of clouds can reflect the color of a lagoon. A greenish tint on the underside of a cloud betrays a shallow lagoon beneath it, visible from over 30 miles away. They tracked phosphorescence. In some parts of the Pacific, bioluminescent organisms in the water create streaks of light that radiate outward from islands due to wave refraction patterns. A navigator could see these streaks at night and follow them to land. All of this knowledge was oral. Nothing was written down. It was passed from master navigator to apprentice through years of training that began in childhood. A student might spend a decade learning before being trusted to lead a voyage. The knowledge was sacred. In some island cultures, navigation was a priestly function. The navigator was the most important person on the canoe. Not the chief. Not the warrior. The person who could read the ocean. In 1976, a group of Hawaiian cultural practitioners built a traditional Polynesian voyaging canoe named Hokule'a and sailed it from Hawaii to Tahiti using only traditional navigation methods. The navigator was Maupielug, a master wayfinder from the tiny island of Satawal in Micronesia, one of the last people alive who still practiced the old navigation. The voyage took 33 days. It proved that the ancient Polynesians could have, and did, make these voyages deliberately, not by accident. Hokule'a has since sailed over 150,000 nautical miles, including a worldwide voyage from 2014 to 2017, becoming a symbol of Polynesian cultural revival. The canoe that was built to prove the ancestors were not lost has become one of the most important cultural artifacts in the Pacific. European explorers arrived in the Pacific with compasses, chronometers, charts, and ships 10 times the size of a Polynesian canoe. Captain James Cook, who mapped much of the Pacific in the 1770s, was astonished by the Polynesian navigators he encountered. He wrote that they could sail to any island they wished with a precision that rivaled his own instruments. The Polynesians had already been everywhere Cook went. Centuries before him. In canoes. Using their minds and the ocean. 10 million square miles. Every habitable island. No instruments. No writing. No metal. Just human beings who looked at the stars, felt the waves, watched the birds, read the clouds, and found their way across the largest ocean on Earth. The modern world navigates with satellites. The Polynesians navigated with knowledge. And they never got lost.